Hi, everyone. We are the Hatchery LA team, as you know, and we hope that you've enjoyed this three-part series on conversations, future, and faith. And this is something, obviously, that's super important to us as people who are part of an incubator for spiritual entrepreneurship. We're constantly looking to the future and asking some of these critical questions of God, theology, community, faith, church, and how we move it all forward in ways that are sustainable and viable. And that makes sense for who we are as humans who are living in community. So we always say that it takes two things to be a spiritual entrepreneur, at least two things that we focus on, particularly as an organization, as we teach the material, as we coach and do different things with it. And the first piece is innovative theology. And we say that any spiritual entrepreneur needs to look critically at the theology they hold and see how they're going to move it forward in ways that are transformative for the 21st century and how we live. And the second thing is an organizational methodology known as Lean Canvas that really talks about moving your project forward in ways that are sustainable within one's own ecosystem. And so we just want to take a moment and talk about these two things, how we do spiritual entrepreneurship, and then we want to extend a really special invite to anybody watching to join us in our next cohort for our certificate in spiritual entrepreneurship that is launching September 24th. So we have Barry Taylor here, who's one of our amazing instructors. And Barry, I know you teach a lot for us in the area of innovative theology. Can you talk just a little bit more about that and why that is so important to being a spiritual entrepreneur?
Sure. Well, as you know, and as you've just said, we have this course coming up that really focuses intensely on helping to refine and create spiritual entrepreneurs, or help people realize their own spiritual entrepreneurship. And one of the key components in our approach is the theological. You know, in lots of environments, you can get help with how to change your church service, or how to think about a new way of management or something like that. But we're trying to deal with a more holistic approach to the whole thing. And theology is central. I mean, it's central to the life of the church. It's central to the life of all of us who claim some kind of faith practice or faith life. And so for us, as we enter more firmly the 21st century, we're more and more convinced that where innovation really needs to take place is in the realm of theology. And we've called it innovative theology because for us, it's about the innovation of theology in general, not specific. So we don't have a particular theological axe that we're grinding. We're not telling people what position to hold or what they should or shouldn't think. We're saying whatever you think and however you've come to the things that you do think about, maybe it's time to look at those things and reinvigorate and reflect on the way you actually do theology and innovate that practice and that thing. So we do some very practical things. We set a context. We look at the reality of the world in which we live, and then we think about, well, how do we respond theologically to this, and in what ways can we innovate our own theological grids? So it's okay to start thinking one thing and to end thinking the same thing. But along the way, we hope that you're going to think about why you think the way you think, and then rethink why you think what you think. That's innovative theology.
Yes, thank you. And obviously, hand in hand for us is lean methodology or lean canvas. And Spencer, can you talk to us a little bit about that and why we've chosen that organizational framework for spiritual entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I think the thing is happening is so many people are looking at attendance and budgets and buildings. And it's fascinating the number of people who we've had conversations with that are trying to figure out how to think about measuring these things even. The old measurements don't work for us anymore. So lean methodology is a way in which we really try to tackle the real problem. In fact, there's a saying that goes around that says, really love your problem, not your solution. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we immediately jump to say, oh, how do we get more people to Sunday morning? Yeah. How do we get renters into our building? Mm-hmm. Those are solutions to a problem that we have. And so really what lean methodology does is try to get you down to ask the question deeper. what is the real issue here? What is the real problem people are trying to solve? A lot of times you'll hear people say, I think the church is answering questions we're no longer asking.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's one of the problems, is that we say we've got the solution. So innovative theology connected with lean methodology allows us to look in a different way. It really is a risk-taking place.
Yeah.
It's a place in which we need to start to do a little bit more of research and development. Again, like Barry said, with the theological understanding, we don't care if you end up in exactly the same place you've begun, just as long as you know why you got there and what you're going to do with that.
Exactly.
As we've talked to our students, though, they don't usually end up in the same place. But it's a risk. It's an opportunity. But again, the risk is low and the opportunity is high. So really, as we walk through a new way of trying to evaluate what you're trying to accomplish, integrated with a template of looking at the theological viewpoint of how you work with this, then what happens is new potential solutions happen. And instead of really coming from a top down, it really focuses on the base of what you're trying to accomplish, what is really needed. And in that way, we walk through like a build, measure, learn. There's the idea of really no failure is available in this, because it's always about learning, always about why in the world is religion the one place where theologically and even programmatically we have to be right the first time? That's never true. We have to continually grow and iterate and understand why we're doing what we're doing. And in that way, lean methodology gives us a new framework of being able to evaluate these things, and not just evaluate, but dream. Yeah. To really take the risk of thinking about new ways of approaching this. And the other part I would hope we'd all understand is that we're not looking to try to change the whole game. Really, in R&D, you take one idea and you test it and see. So don't think of this as the magic silver bullet that's going to change everything in the world. This is a conversation that begins to open you to a new place and a free and safe place to be able to test some of these assumptions and see if they are true or not.
And speaking of safe places, the whole reason why we had this series of conversations, Future and Faith, is because we know as an organization we're having them, and we're trying to have them with each other and publicly and with people that we're working with. But we know that you're having them, because when we have these conversations with other people, what we're saying, what you're saying, what we're saying, it all resonates and it's working together. People are having these kind of conversations of what does it look like to move our faith forward into the future in ways that matter and in ways that will, survive and thrive, for generations to come. And so we wanted to kind of bring this conversation into a safe space, in a public space, so that, more people could have it and more people would kind of feel comfortable bringing some of these issues to the forefront, because I think it can potentially be a difficult conversation, but it's one we want to invite you into. And speaking of invitations, we would love for you to consider joining us for our September 24th cohort launch and our certificate in spiritual entrepreneurship. You can go to our website to learn more about it. There'll be links after this video that will tell you more about it. It's a 12-week course. It's an introduction to everything that we've been talking about. The first 3 weeks, actually, we talk about really setting the stage and redrawing the map. And we look at the state of affairs of religion in the West. We look at new cultural containers. We look at new economic realities. We look at all sorts of things that enact upon religion and Christianity and that have changed it and shifted it and evolved it and transformed it. And then from there, we go on to the innovative theology piece, the lean canvas piece. We spend some time talking about human-centered design, changes in technology, and then finally we wind up with sort of looking towards the future and what are we looking at when we look towards the future. So again, we want to invite you. We are the Hatchery LA team, and we are just so very glad that you joined us for this conversation. So please feel free to reach out to us with questions. We're available, and we'd love to talk with you more about this. So thank you so much.
Thanks
right?
so much.
Are we excited?
Yeah, absolutely. HatcheryLA.com, all one word.
Yes. Thank you so much.